Hey everybody, what's up? This is Retrokid Reviews with potentially one of my cats on frame. So if you see Obi, say hi Obi in the comments. And I think this is the closest to Black and Blues I'm going to get to Mark's gear. So this is going to be my second take doing this review due to the grounds. If you saw the community notes, this past weekend I was unfortunately sick due to a lot of at-home stuff, nothing really crazy, not like COVID era crazy again, it was just diarrhea. So we're going to do hopefully an abridged version of what I was trying to do. Also, another key reason why for Invincible Season 3's catch-up review is that my phone finally said, yeah, we're going to need you to stop on the memory part. So, storage aside, let's see what I could condense in these last two episodes for the season. Starting off at the top, it is actually a really damn good adaptation of Invincible War. The only big difference that I think my figure wall over here would probably want to tell you is that they were missing one key, I guess, cameo that was also mentioned. Oh, there's Ovi, by the way, so I'm going to try my best to hide his butthole for YouTube copyright reasons and censorship reasons. So with that being said, yeah, the big thing out of that, before we get to the obvious marks of it all for that episode, is that I think Spawn was supposed to have a cameo in one of the fights with the alternate marks. That was recruited by Angstrom Levy, once again by Starla Kane Brown, coming back to this. The whole intro getting into the war itself was actually pretty cool. It showed, I think, almost accurately from the comics how he beat Mark, nearly killing him last season, so it did add up pretty well. And if I remember correctly, one of the technicians by the name of known venerable horror actor Doug Bradley of Hellraiser, we have such to show you kind of fame. Sorry for the slurring the words. That's trying to lead up to this. Yeah, I think there were characters in the comics that explained how Angstrom survived the last couple of fights with Mark, and probably more coming up if book readers are anything to indicate. Speaking of those book readers, how much did they get accurate? Is there any different variants of Mark that was made for the show? In a word, some, maybe one. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments, as always. I know there were some additions there as well, much like a few other things that will be added into the Conquest fight we'll talk about to bookend this review. I don't know. I think the only full masked Mark mentioned that he and William were a couple. I think that was the only addition there, that one of them is openly openly gay in that kind of I guess romance life outside of it, which ironically didn't piss off non-comic readers and the whole Amber situation of all, if anyone remembers the last two seasons. So I could be wrong. Alt-right bros are alt-right bros. They could still be like that in the comments somewhere out there, so let me know just in case. As for the episode itself, it's pretty one-to-one from the comic, and my cat already wants to wreck my set. He is very nimble like that Obi. So, before more wrecking begins, let's talk about the wrecking the Marks did in that episode. Again, like I said, very one-to-one from the comic. The animation not really showed up, but also showed out and very much locked in for the Conquest fight we'll talk about, like I said, bookend this review. Like I said, probably in my original cut, Stevie Hand did a great job doing multiple variations of these marks. You can tell how different they are. You got glimpses of it, last season when, Angstrom's, one of Angstrom's Earths basically had evil marks, so you got a taste of what that was going to be for Invincible War. For the rest of the superheroes themselves, the GDA was all over the map, just trying to like contain what they can with the marks. Mark himself was also haggard to hell and back, I think even more so in the comics, so again, book readers, let me know in the comments for that. Eve, I think blew her leg in this episode. I forgot to mention that in my original cut. I didn't really talk too much about the injuries and the sacrifices, because long story short, this is where we get I guess Comic Rex I guess timeline closing up here. For those who didn't see my original double review for that, there were a lot of what Team Forcer described, a lot of death flags like thrown up out of nowhere for his final scenes for the series. And despite that, I feel like the show did a better job softening the blow for non-comic readers like myself. And for Jason Mantzoukas, who's been playing Rex throughout the entire series, he did a great job doing his final lines. Him using his skeleton to basically blow up a variant mark is very one-to-one from the comic. I don't know, it was also a way to call back to being a more of an X-Men 97 reference with Gambit's Remember It episode. It's kind of one of those chicken and egg situations of what was adaptation from the comic, what was homage from another medium, another, well, better superhero company as well. That will be for the histories and most likely for the comics to talk about. I will say for Williams actor, Christian Convery. I told you I was going to get that character's name after last week's review. So, I'm sorry, this case last month, but if you're seeing this now. Yeah, he did a great job being William for both of these episodes. The panic of him just flying over to any city he could find, any version of Marg, essentially, to keep going. Sorry for the glare over here. I just realized I left the TV on, so, yeah, and it's a very hectic fight throughout all the variants of Marg. Ultimately, no single score reviews for each episode, but however, this and the Conquest episode, now that we're finally here, are absolutely the strongest episodes of the season as a whole. Definitely tied it together, definitely made all the updates that Mark was going through his first years of patrol, seeing where everyone's been, tied together pretty well. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here because I just had coffee in between filming this. So I'm going to try my best not to jittery because, how do I say this nicely, for the Conquest fight that ended Season 3, it was amazing. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is one of the illustrious alum of Walking Dead actors that have made regular appearances. I forgot the actor off the top of my head, but he is doing, in speaking of Marvel and X-Men 97 ties, their version of Magneto and Immortal. He, like I said in my double review, he had a really good strong episode of a future version of him, and I think the same case will be said here too with his relationship with Kate going on for the rest of the series. They kind of get the idea of each other's mortality, each other's well, immortality, depending on their powers, and I think it was more accurately depicted also in the book as well. But we're not here for that just yet. We're here for Jeffrey Dean Morgan and the return in a Robert Kirkman series since Negan, in a first appearance next to Steven Yeun. You can see the parallels I was trying to put in the non-spoilers review. I used to be a dyed-in-the-wool Walking Dead fan. I'm very much happy that streamers over the years, I think Cinnabread and a bunch of other Twitch streamers have basically found new life and appreciation for the Telltale series, so I'll give them that at the very least. However, I was a show watcher, and I kind of stopped reading the books right around when the Exandria arc was coming up. So, essentially, to see Negan and Glenn in the same room having a fight after 9 years, I guess TV-wise, was kind of a moment for me, to put it bluntly. The whole episode is just one big DBZ level kind of brawl. Essentially, they're the Viltrumite equivalent of Broly, to put it in anime terms, and you can definitely see it throughout all of it. The only addition I think that everyone has been saying the last couple of weeks, I think, is the added lore that Conquest likes to is sort of getting lonely, and that the empathy that Nolan was feeling after season 1 is probably a show addition to slowly make more Viltrumites rebel against the Empire. I don't know if that's going to fully work out, given what Nessa will be doing next season. For those who are comic readers, you know. I only know the highlights, and on highlights alone. However, the fight itself was insane. And just the pacing of just like Mark trying to rebuild after Invincible War, going into the Conquest fight, is just as juxtaposed, just as jarring as it is in the comics for what I've seen from comic readers. And after all the anger you're feeling with Mark after fighting a boatload of versions of himself, doing clutch move after clutch move with Angstrom, one of which was just avoiding as many portals as he can and almost getting a kill shot, and then Angstrom just diving out at the last minute all over again, is a really good build for a rivalry like that than I think even Powerplex got early on this season. So, to put it bluntly, in Mark's case, as far as being Invincibles go, he has a good roster of rivalries and villains coming up, probably for the later half of the series. So, speaking of which, Conquest is still alive. Spoilers abound. It's been a couple of weeks, but there's a good couple of comic reasons why he still needs to be alive, so that Cecil could get an idea of how many are left in the Empire, so that he can do a better counteroffensive for Earth and stuff like that, GDA-wise. If I've had time to talk about it in the double review, I think the Allen episode found out that there's only like 50 plus left in the game Viltrumite rise that wants to still do their business when it comes to taking over the universe. So that is the total head count, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's also accurate from the comic. So again, let me know in the comments down below as always. Final thoughts, just for the fight itself before we get to scores and Rex's funeral. It is 10 out of 10. The animation is definitely a lot better than it looks. There is still some like tilted, jolty kind of like reuse of a lot of locations, mainly because in my head canon when I was watching the series and when I was doing my original cut for this review, kind of makes sense in Mark's case because he had some experience with a Nissus fight to try to get him out of major series as humanly possible, and I think that was the only time I would kind of excuse that kind of I guess animation hiccup, but that still didn't help him in the end. Like, it took Mark, I think both in the comics and in this episode, to literally headbutt the literal crap out of Conquest just to get the point across that he can still win barely on a Viltrumite alone. So essentially, that's really it. The Eve portion of this is a lot. I won't spoil too much what was going on with Oliver in this fight. He did show up for it too. And I still think Debbie is the MVP as far as like parental figures and like secondary cast outside of Rex now, unfortunately. Due to the grounds that she's a lot different than the comics. Comic readers says she's more of a open alcoholic. She's very more depressed than I think she would be in the show itself. And again, I will always give it to Sandra Oh for her adaptation of Debbie. I think she does more. She gives it a more human approach to this kind of like trauma than I think the book tried to do back in the day. Again, it's been 20 years in between. And speaking of Eve, I have to give Jillian Jacobs her due because she did some pretty money moves when it comes to resurrecting herself, which is now apparently in Eve's power set. If I remembered the Eve special, which I didn't have time to talk about in the original cut, and unfortunately time for this review, there was a bit of a nugget of her having memory blocks to like not go full all out, like whatever this universe's equivalent of a Phoenix kind of like power level, but that's kind of where we're going to be at for Eve going forward, for what comic creators are probably indicating if you've been reading or watching a comic creator channels last couple of weeks. That having been said, it still wasn't enough, but the only addition to her fight, her contribution to the Conquest fight, is that she had like adamanized like power armor kind of stuff, something akin to like Green Lantern power set kind of stuff. I really like that. It's a good addition to me as a Power Rangers fan. It just feels like she upgraded her like power set from what she learned from college to basically be like a battleizer kind of thing, to like give her a little more as much as an edge as she can with the fight with Conquest. Another thing book readers are loving from the editions is that the bubble heart thing Conquest was doing when Mark had him in space for like a good hot second, and just basically screwing with him, toying with him every chance he can. Like, there was like, you can tell Morgan was having a fun time chewing the scenery in the voice booth when it comes to that. So that's a great addition there too, from what comic creators have indicated. And yeah, now on to the funeral portion for Rex. Everyone has basically said it's one-to-one from the comics, even down to like Eve's eulogy as well. And I think as show watchers, we did get something early ahead of time. Was basically Rudy using a robot to basically self-pilot the eulogy because he didn't have the time, or I guess the empathy was kicking into him in waves, and he just didn't want to like say what he wanted to say about it after the fact, which again is more or less kind of canon to the comics. If anyone remembers the time travel episode after the Angstrom fight, you got a better, deeper appreciation now to Rudy looking like an older version of Rex when you see the 20 years versions of them after that season finale. A lot of good paybacks and callbacks to that as well. Mara getting laid is very juxtaposed because I guess, again, Amazon series, and I kind of want to keep it brief. And apparently there's like ties to maybe Eve's powers fluctuating later down the road. Now here's one last thing before we get to the end scores. And my final thoughts, I think book readers didn't see Damien Dark coming back. Voice acted once again by Clancy Brown of many voice acting fame. Go to his IMDb down below. And obviously to this full season also down below as well for final cards and links. And yeah, long story short, apparently they're weirded out that somebody new might be coming in to have a darker heart or something along those lines. Maybe some sort of resurrection might come into play later down the road as an addition to the series. But what people are speculating now, this is coming off of my social feed, so go with it as well as a grain of salt, that it might be a way to get Spawn officially in the series, because, like I said earlier in this review, a lot of Image Comics alumni were bigger players into the Invincible War. The only one that actually showed up was Tech Jacket, who was actually Robert Kirkman creation, which kind of made sense going on forward, so... I don't know, time will tell when it comes to it. I am very happy that they had some guest actors to show up for that post-cred. I think, Ash vs. Evil Dead's own, the name escapes me as well. Go to that episode down below. My apologies. So before my, phone goes on another memory spree for my, storage aside, Judgment Time and final rating for this, it's a 10 out of 10. The show is still good. It's still worth a watch after all this time waiting for it animation-wise. Will it be the same case come season 4? Who really knows? There's rumor mill that the voice acting is done. They're just waiting on the animation like the last time. So, again, it's going to be yearly occurrence now instead of a bi-yearly, which is very helpful on the animation front. I don't know where it is actual workmanship-wise when it comes to the animators. So, again, who may know? Only time will tell. Ultimately, do I recommend this season? Yeah, it's the strongest out of the 3. You can definitely see where the animation is going, bookending each other seasons-wise. And ultimately, it's really up to you. If you still want to sit through the series, go ahead. If you want to sit through the comic itself, wait for the omnibus to be on sale. Not on Amazon Prime due to what's currently going on in our political climate here in the States, but if you can find it at a local comic shop, under $50, go ahead. I would do it too if I was you. So with reading recommendations out of the way, what did you think of this season of Invincible? Did you think I was speedrunning to the finish just like this season? Or did I get the point across with this new take? So let me know in the comments down below. And with that all being said, end card's finally coming up to my previous video here, which was also talking about Power Rangers news when it comes to Disney are probably coming back. Shirt here to my not here, to my sub the channel, the notification bell down below. Hand here to my shorts playlist for this week's upcoming non-spoiler / shorts react to this week's Daredevil Born Again. And until next time, I'm Retrokid Review saying, yeah, I gotta start getting Invincible figures, because I really want to do figure form reviews for this. Seriously, it's absolutely worth a watch if I could do it with that.